So I've seen neurotypicals and other people with different mental disorders say, oh, I take responsibility unlike a narcissist, and as a narcissist myself, I'm going to share some thoughts about that. So I find it pretty hypocritical that those with other mental disorders are joining the side of those who would stigmatize them just the same. Don't act like you're one of them just because you're united in being, against NPD. If you have any mental health disorder, that's a reoccurring pattern that causes problems and issues in your life. So, okay, sure, just because you're coming after NPD, it might not directly be impacting you, but that's still the same boost that allows all mental health stigma in general to occur. So, just because you take responsibility, unlike a narcissist, for the stupid shit that you do, it does not mean that the stigma is eventually not gonna come knocking on your door as well, just because you're putting a temporary delay due to the fact that your disorder might be given more leniency than mine. I also want to point out that I think cognitive empathy is given more proud recognition to other mental health difficulties in comparison to, let's say, NPD or maybe just all cluster B disorders in general. This might be a really hot take, but I'm going to propose that anyone with a mental health disorder has a distorted sense of empathy, in general. It might just be more obvious with a cluster B disorder, let's say, but nonetheless, I still am thinking this. Neurotypicals are easily in sync with other neurotypicals. Those who are mentally ill or, let's say, neurodivergent have to constantly ponder how much accommodation am I rightfully owed because of my disorder versus how much responsibility do I have to other people where I'm not making it an excuse. We all think this if you're mentally ill or neurodivergent, let's say. Just because you're performing better to appease the people that are ultimately against you, it does not mean that you are less mentally ill at your core. So I've noticed that with other mental health disorders showing improvements, they're given less scrutiny towards their internal perception in comparison to, let's say, a cluster B disorder like NPD or ASPD. So let's say somebody with NPD or ASPD tries to use more cognitive empathy so they can improve their relationships with other people and get along in society better. The stigma will still ultimately say that there is some manipulation going on to try to do, some kind of wrong. Whether or not there is consistency of improvement for somebody with NPD or ASPD, the stigma still waits for the one and any slip up to say, oh, it was just a scam, we were just being tricked, we were still being fooled the entire time. So when it comes to a lot of other disorders, producing results is easily something more accepted as an accomplishment. But when it comes to a cluster B disorder, oh, cognitive empathy isn't real empathy still, so I just hate you nonetheless. So if you're consistent with this view that it has to be someone's inner and outer being, for lack of a better way of saying it, both having to be normal, then you're just against the existence of a mentally ill person in general. So in a weird way, now that I think about it, it's not even that society accepts other disorders better. They would just prefer to hate certain disorders more than others. They don't like disorders in general.